join me on first coffee of the day while I get my setup going here with my Trello board for my small amount of tasks for today. I don't have a great deal of time to put into game development, but I like subscribing to the idea of no 0 days. Quite a good one. You just do at least a wee bit, at least something every day to work on your project. And it could just be opening it up and changing a value. It's just sticking in that mindset of doing something. Um, One of the things that's been on my mind quite a lot lately as well is graphical styles, because of every project I work on, I seem to flip flop back on a graphical style. I start with pixel art and then I try something else, or I start with something completely different and then always go back to pixel art. I always find my way back to pixel art for some reason. And it's for a number of reasons. I have made games that aren't using pixel art as well. Um, Majority of my games I make and I publish with pixel art. I think a lot of it comes down to the type of game that it is. I typically make more either RPGs, roguelikes, that sort of thing. And obviously, the games on the market and I'm talking about purely 2D here because 3D is something that I don't work in typically. But the games on the market that are roguelites or RPGs that are 2D typically use pixel art. Most of them use pixel art, especially roguelites. So it's kind of a balancing act of trying to target players who like those games. They'll see, when they look at my game, they'll see elements of games that they've already played that they like. One of the best bits of advice I read on this kind of stuff was, I forget his name. Sorry, I had a wee audio hiccup there. Can't remember his name. Chris Zukowski, is that his name? He does how to market a game, and I'm part of his newsletter. I've watched tons of his videos as well, and I just consume a lot of his content because it's really valuable stuff. To be fair, and if you've not heard of him, I suggest checking him out if you want to publish a game on Steam, on Itch, anywhere really. Um, but what he said was, when people are scrolling, you basically want to, when they're scrolling down the Steam search results or the Steam store, you want people to, when they look at your game, go, oh, that reminds me of, oh, that reminds me of Diablo, oh, that reminds me of Mario Kart, oh, that reminds me of this or that. You're suppose you're kind of feeding off nostalgia, you're feeding off of positive past memories, and that's not to say that you have to one for one recreate those games, but um, like, let's be real, no idea is original. No game idea, especially, is original. Everything's feeding off something to some extent. You cannot make something purely original. And if you're trying to, you're setting yourself up for failure. So your best bet is to sprinkle in elements of something. For me, I'm trying to sprinkle in elements of like Loop Hero or Slay the Spire with the map as well, and it'll make people recognise some of those elements and go, well, that reminds me of, and I had a great time playing this other game. So that's kind of what goes into my decision making progress when I'm coming up with a graphical style. And also, the big one as well is feasibility, is the logistics. Like, do you have the skills required to produce that? Do you have the interest in producing that? If you're not doing it, do you have the financial power to like to outsource it to somebody with the skills or with the time to do it? Those are all things to consider, because when I was making the vector style graphics for this game, the idea was that every piece of armour would have its own visual representation. So, like most RPGs, when you put on a new bit of armour, it would reflect on your character, and it was kind of like a fashion show at the same time as building up your character with better stats and better combos. But I'm one guy developing this with I don't want to say minimal art skills. I feel like I'm selling myself a wee bit short there, but when it comes to vector, like it takes me, I'm not skilled enough to do it fast. It takes me a long ass time to make those sprites. Um, and long term, I want to be adding more and more and more pieces of loot and equipment into the game. Meanwhile, I'm going to have to fix bugs. I'm going to have to add new features. I'm going to have to add more content, and it just wasn't feasible in an ideal world. It would be a great idea. It would look brilliant, but I kind of need to weigh up. Do I want to actually get the game out there for people to play it, for me to say, look, I did it, or do I want to feed into this vision, which may or may not crash and burn? And it's all about risk taking. I didn't want to take that risk. That was why I went back to the pixel art style, and I'm happy with how it's coming along. So I've got some tasks that I need to do today. They're nothing major. I'm going to get cracking on some of them just now. Here's today's fun spell effect that I didn't get done yesterday. Add the potion sprite, update the vendor, and update the font sizes on the tooltips, but also in some other areas as well. So that looks like that's going to be that today. That's a few hours of work anyway on the game, which is good. That's all those items ticked off. Nice progress. So why don't I show you exactly what I've got done today?